Hey, welcome back, brand new Take Aim. And I got to sit down this week with Jace Bauserman from Grand View Outdoors, Bowhunting World Magazine editor. Unbelievable episode, so much to learn, so many tips. If you want to be a better bow hunter, you need to listen to this episode. And once again, thanks to Jace for being on the show. It was a great one, and I hope everybody enjoys it as much as I did because there's so much to take away from this episode. All right, guys, we're back. Brand new Take Aim. Excited to have Jace Bauserman back on the show with me today. What's up, Jace?
Hey, man. Super stoked to be a part of the show. Thanks for having me again.
Not a problem, man. Super excited to talk to you and hang out again. And, man, I know you just did this huge 100-miler race, man. So let's dive into that for 1 second before we start talking some bow hunting.
Oh, yeah. It was this past weekend. It was the Grand Mesa 100-mile ultramarathon. So it's 100 miles in the mountains, lots of elevation gain and loss, and something that I accomplished last year, but I just wasn't satisfied with my overall time placing, and I wanted to go after it again. So it was basically recover from the race last year and just started the training process again, which it's just a grueling process, but stayed dedicated and true to my training, and really didn't miss a workout, and it paid off huge this past weekend. And I'm still healing up, and I'm still my feet are still in a pretty good amount of pain, but I'm smiling ear to ear as well. So I'm super excited about how it went down.
Cool. Tell me a little bit. Did you change anything, like ramping up towards a race or training-wise? Did you change stuff last year?
Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot last year. Anytime you run an ultramarathon, you learn, it's a constant, it's a lot like bow hunting. Every time you're in the field, you learn something new, and every time you toe the line in an ultra, you learn something new throughout the course. And what I learned is, I don't know much about ultramarathon running. So I've got a good buddy who I hooked up with who's probably arguably one of the best, if not the best, ultramarathon runner in the world. Total different level than myself. He's an elite guy. He makes his living doing it. And so he actually drew up my workout plans throughout for basically half a year. And I followed those. We got gear advice, nutrition advice, and that changed the game for me big time. And then having pacers. At the race, this particular race, you could pick up a pacer, I think, at mile 47. I picked up my first one at mile 60, I believe. It was my buddy J.C. Navarro, and we crushed out like a 9-mile section with a 4,500-foot vertical climb in it, which was that 4,500 feet, you gained it in 4 miles. So it was
really
brutal. Was grueling, man. Yeah, it was really brutal. And then got to the top, coasted in a few miles, recovered, picked up Tim Kent, my buddy, and he ran 35 miles with me the rest of the way. And having that, having him through the night, because you don't stop, you just keep going. It's a relentless grind. But man, we came in third male overall, and last year I was 9th. And
wow, that's
cut like
really
4.5 hours off the time. And yeah, man, it was such a blessing just to even when I crossed the line, I was just I still can't believe it, really. It was awesome.
Shout out to that bearded dude from New York that came out there to...
Right, what a beast. He is a stud.
Shout out
He
Tim
is
Kent.
A stud. And he, if it hadn't been for him, honestly, at that point in the race, at mile 55, I developed blisters that I'd never developed before. They're right on the pads of my feet. So I run on my toes. When you're climbing, obviously, you grip with your toes. When you're descending, you're on your toes. You're just on your toes a lot in the pads of your feet. The blisters, it's hard to explain, but they're about as big around as a Coke can, the circle of a Coke can.
Oh.
And they filled with fluid, and they popped. And I just felt this warming sensation. Oh, gosh. And, at mile whatever it was, 50 whatever, when I got them, I came in the aid station. My wife's an RN nurse. I had a great crew. My kids were there. We got all taped up, got moleskin on them, and held together pretty well until mile about 80. And at that point, we pushed into second place and we were thinking about, can we challenge the lead here? The leader we heard he was cramping, and I was feeling good, and then we did a real gnarly descent, and the blisters, just the moleskin, whatever it was, the pain redlined to a 10, and from 80 to 100, second place repassed us, and then it was just a matter of listening to Tim and letting him drag me basically at a fast power walk the best we could through the course. And when we got to the end, the aid stations, everybody knew at that point, like what I was dealing with, blister and pain wise. They'd seen them, they'd reported it to the other aid stations, and first and second place runners were there, and they all wanted pictures of them and stuff. And it was a really, I wouldn't have had it any other way. I'd like to have seen what that last 20 miles would have looked like without, obviously,
Right.
but I wouldn't have had it any other way. It was the way it was supposed to be. I'm a faith guy. Everything happens for a reason,
attitude.
and that was the reason today. So
Yeah.
I was stoked to be able to finish.
Absolutely. And that puts you in a whole another level, I would assume, mentally wise, and you endured something that that you hope probably never to endure again, but you passed through it. And I think that's a huge accomplishment, right?
Yeah, man, for sure.
So that's super cool. Well, congrats to that again, and congrats to Tim for coming out and hanging with you. That's super cool.
Very cool. He came a long way just to help me, so I am forever appreciative.
Yeah, that's super neat. So, so for not myself, Jace, which obviously I know what you do, but tell everybody else who you are and what you do. I think it's been a while since you've been on the show, so let's remind everybody what you do.
Yeah, sure. I'm the editor-in-chief of Bowhunting World Magazine and Archery Business Magazine. I'm the author of the book Bowhunting the Prince of the Plains, which is all about pronghorn, and I'm just a passionate bow hunter. I'm very energetic and excitable, and I run ultra marathons because I want to run ultra marathons, and that's just kind of me in a nutshell. I just try to stay positive. I like to surround myself with positive people and keep an upbeat attitude and just go after life every day.
That is exactly who you are, Jay, so that's pretty good. Look out.
Appreciate it, man.
But, yeah, excited that you mentioned the pronghorn, man, because that's why I wanted you on. I kind of wanted to just talk a hardcore bow hunting podcast about maybe to me and maybe with you, Jace, I sometimes think it's the most underrated animal maybe in North America. And
no
I
question.
think no question, really. I think there's plenty of opportunities for guys to bow hunt, and that's as much as I love to talk about whitetails, and that's really my core for the show. The other core for the show is always to promote bow hunting and where you can bow hunt and stuff like that. And I think pronghorn is such a great beast to conquer that, that we have to talk about it and hopefully talk about it a few more times.
I agree, man. I think that, anybody, I always hear this. Well, it's a great intro to the West animal, and it's a great, they're a magnificent creature, and there's so many ways that you can hunt them. And the cool thing about pronghorn is there are so many states, Colorado being one of them, where it's just over the, there's some draw units, but more than half of the state is over the counter. You just go buy the tag. South Dakota, you just go buy the tag. These are all states I've hunted. Nebraska, just go buy a pronghorn tag. Wyoming, yeah, you can put in, but there's leftover tags too. It's a tag that's very accessible that you can get, and you can get out west. You can plan a trip, and you can go out and see these creatures and hunt them, and you can experience success and experience a great hunt. On an animal that, like you said, in my opinion, arguably, especially if you're going to spot and stock, there's few animals that rival them in terms of challenge spot and stock. Waterhole, we can get into whatever you want, man, but there's something else. They're just a gnarly species of. It's just a gnarly species. They're not related to, their closest relative is the giraffe. They're not a deer. They're not an antelope at all. They're not a goat. So. Just a really unique species.
It is, totally. I think it's super unique and, again, underrated that it's ours. It's a 100% unique animal here in North America that, like you said, I think without question the hardest animal to spot and stalk as bow hunter. So it's definitely worthy of, devoting some good time to talking about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jace, what's your, let's just go your dream hunt for pronghorn. Let's pick the state. Let's run through that, and then how you would do it via, spot and stalk, glassing from a truck, or just give me the rundown on really what you like to do it and how you learned and got good at those types of hunting.
Yeah, absolutely. My dream hunt for pronghorn is always going to be right here in my backyard, right here in Colorado. I hunt these things 5 miles, 6 miles from my house here in the southeast part of the state. And if I'm going to do it my way, I'm going to do it spot and stalk. And the reason I'm going to do it spot and stalk is because it's challenging. It's hard. There's a lot that goes into pulling off a successful stalk on an animal that's the second fastest land animal in the world, the fastest in North America, and has, better than 8 power vision binoculars for eyes, can see 300 degrees. So it gives you 60 degrees and one tilt of the head. You're hosed. It's over. Their sense of smell, it's not the best, but they can hear. There's so much that goes into killing an animal. The satisfaction that you'll get from spot and stalk is incredible. Now, I'm not saying it's the only way. I'm not even saying it's the best way. But when you talk about my dream hunt, my dream situation, I'm crawling across the plains after a mature pronghorn, and that's the way I like to go after them is spot and stalk.
Well, give me the rundown, Jace. When does are you in a zone in Colorado? Like a certain
no zones here.
Okay.
I'm part of the open archery season that starts August 15th across the state.
Okay, super cool. August 15th.
So we're on the brink of it right now.
Hand in hand, such a cool thing for bow hunters that you can
get out early and do something.
Yeah, you get out early. Unreal, and potentially have decent weather. There's some spots that could be extremely heat-wise and hot and hard on you, but probably where you are in southeast Colorado, it's probably great weather at that time of year. So that is just another benefit, which is so cool to hunt those things.
Yeah, and that is it's a huge benefit. You're out. Our elk season doesn't come in for 2 weeks after pronghorn opener. So it's something. It's not gonna cut into hardly any of the. I don't even know if there's a deer season other than a couple of zones in Florida maybe that are where you're hunting whitetails on August 15th.
Right.
You're well away from that September 1 opener that a lot of states have for whitetails, and it's just a good way to get out. Test your equipment, hone your spot and stalk skills if that's the way you're going to do it. But that's a huge benefit. Yeah,
for sure. So, what do you do, Jace, to prepare for the opener? Because I know, we do things for whitetails to get ready.
Sure.
To pre-scout, so to speak. So, is there an opportunity? How do you pre-scout for antelope?
So basically pre-scouting for antelope. Yeah, pre-scouting for antelope is, the great thing about antelope or pronghorn, is they're very visible. They're not a hard creature to go out and find. They're very, very visible. So I will, right now I've got 7 or 8 trail cameras, just like a whitetail hunter would use, but I'm running those on tanks. And though I might not hunt those tanks, I'm basically looking for a mature buck that's using those tanks that's in the area. That gives me a jumping off point for sure. But also just getting out early in the mornings as the sun's coming up, taking a drive, glassing certain sections, looking for animals, accessing vantage points, setting up, spotting scope. I can't preach it enough, and good optics. I like to run, the spotting scope I'll only use if I really want to hone in on an animal, and I want to say, other than that, I got my binoculars on a tripod or mounted to my truck window, and that's how I do a lot of my scouting. I want to know where a lot of these bucks are early season, pre-rut. Basically the pastures that they're in, they're gonna stay in as long as there's does in the area or does move into the area. Those bucks will start scraping. If you drive through a pasture road and you see scrapes, and a pronghorn scrape's similar to a whitetail scrape, obviously there's no licking branch, but they will definitely paw out the ground. And what they do is they paw out the ground and they pee in it and they crap in it. And they'll hit those if you're in a pasture and you're finding a bunch of those, there's some pronghorn bucks in that pasture, and it's worth looking at. So that's sign that you can pay attention to as well. But mostly I just rely on my optics, man, and getting out and covering country. And that's another big thing with pronghorn hunting. You know, cover ground, cover country. You know, look around. You're going to find them. You know, you're going to find these animals, and you're going to be able to look at them. You're going to be able to watch them. And like I said, the buck that I would like to shoot this year, he's been in the same pasture since roughly the 1st of June. You know, he's been in the same 2-mile section, basically. So, you know, I know where he's at. I know where he's living, and I know what tank he's using. That's just kind of how I go about my scouting. Is a lot of optics, but I'm running trail cameras on tanks as well.
That's pretty unique. Now, Jace, is that like normal for that buck to be doing that? Or, I mean, have you experienced that before? That you're like,
absolutely.
have been able to catch one of these staying in the same area, so to speak?
Yep, absolutely. You know, I mean, I fully intend for him to stay there. Right now he has no reason to leave. He's a mature buck. He's by himself. You know, he knows that the does aren't ready yet. There's probably 8 to 10 does in that pasture as well, and there's a handful of bachelor bucks, just like a bachelor herd of whitetails. I mean, it's early on. These, you know, it's a little boy band out there, 5 or 6 of these little guys, you know, running together. Below their ears, some above their ears, there's a couple of the group that, you know, they're 11-inch bucks, which is a good buck. But this guy's just exceptional, and he's got no reason to leave. He knows he can go take those does when he wants to. He's got water. He's got sufficient cover. He's got grass, and that's where he's staying. I mean, the road leading to the tank it's just scraped. I mean, there's probably 15 scrapes on that road, you know, and so I know where he's at. But I'm not limiting myself to him either, because that's the thing with pronghorn hunting. You got to be flexible. If plan A doesn't go well, you know, if that's your target animal and plan A doesn't go well, you want to know where other bucks are. You want to know other pastures where you can bounce to, you know, and especially if that buck's not in a good spot to stalk, or if you're going to hunt him from water and that doesn't look good for that day, you want to be able to move on and not go, well, you know, and that's one of the things I love about pronghorn hunting is, you know, I guess it's a lot like moving to another tree, you know, when your wind's wrong or whatever, but you're moving to another pasture, you're looking for more animals, you know where they are, you've done your pre-scouting, and you can get out there and start getting after another buck, you know, unless you're just dead set on one.
Right. So, like, mentally preparing yourself for a hunt like this, you're almost kind of just saying to yourself, it's a numbers game, be open to that, be open to moving, be open to shooting any good buck, mature buck that comes by you.
Yeah, if I'm coming out to public land, and I hunt a ton of it in Colorado right here. I have some private stuff, but I'll hunt public just as hard. When I go to South Dakota, Nebraska, I'm hunting public. So I mean, you know, when I go to a spot and I haven't been there, I haven't been running trail cameras. You know, I try to get there a day early before the season or a day before I hunt, and I always, you know, want to kind of take an inventory, and that's just in time in the truck. Honestly, you're trying to find where these animals are, and then yeah, absolutely. I mean, when it comes to spot and stock specifically, if that's the way you want to go about it, and you found a buck, and I used to go after anyone that I would see, because I just believed if I can see him, I can kill him. And it's okay to have that type of attitude and be aggressive, but at the same time, I've learned over time that, you know, if it's a low percentage stock, I'm going to go look for something else. You know, I'm not going to bump that buck just to say I went and stalked him. You know, there's not a lot of purpose in that. So if that buck's not where I want him to be, or if I don't think that I can get within bow range of that buck, I'm going to go look for something else, because opportunity abounds. I know that over the next ridge, or if I drive the truck down the road a mile, I'm probably going to find another buck. You know, and at that point, I can make a decision whether I want to go after him or not. For sure.
Now, are you when you start these stalks, Jace, are you basically like you would with the whitetail or mule deer? Are you playing that wind to the nth degree?
Yeah, some people are going to listen to this and think, man, this guy's an idiot. But I mean, I've journaled entries. I've got film. I've proven it time and time again. No, I pay very little attention to the wind when I'm going to stalk a buck, especially if it's a buck by himself. If there's a bunch of does and stuff, I'm going to put a little more, you know, do I want the wind in my favor? Yes. But I pay more attention to, can I get bow hunting close to that animal? If I can, if the answer is yes, I'm not real worried about the wind. These animals don't seem to have a real strong sense of danger. Now, have I been winded before? Sure. But I'm going to go ahead and press that envelope when it comes to the wind. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be up on a vantage point. I'm going to, if it's a lone buck, I'm going to watch him. He's going to move around. He's going to graze. He's going to do his thing, and he's going to bed down. And once he beds down, I'm going to take an inventory of where he's at. I carry, now I use my iPhone, but I'm going to actually, take some photographs of pictures of where he is. And once I start my stalk, I use those photographs a lot because as you drop off a vantage point, things change, and we know that. But, certain markers, there's a cactus here. There's an old fence post that's been over here. I want to get, he's to the left of that water tank 75 yards. You want to have a good way in which you can plan on going from point A to point B. And the other thing is with pronghorn, a mule deer buck in the high country, once he beds up, he might stay in that bed he might stay there all day. Is he going to stand up and stretch and browse and eat a little bit? Of course. But he's going to lay back down. An antelope buck, you might start your stalk and 5 minutes later he might get up and walk 500 yards. Why?
Right.
Because he wants to. There's not a lot of – so once you go, you got to go. And you just got to commit to it. And, if you get to a place where, the thoughts start coming in of I can't see him anymore, that's a good thing. He can't see you either. But I can't see him anymore. Gosh, I hope he didn't move, so I better peek. No, you can't do that. Don't – if he's moved or he's going to move, there's nothing you can do about it. So you have to execute the stalk perfectly. And just plan on the fact that buck's remained bedded there. If you get to a point where you should see him and he's not there, okay, now it's time to try to relocate him because he did get up out of his bed. But, you've got to trust that once you start your stalk, you've got to commit to it. You fully got to commit to it. It's an animal you cannot get lazy on. I tell people all the time there's positions where crawling means crawling. That's on your hands and knees or flat out on your belly like a snake. And you've got to take every advantage that you can get when you're stalking these things.
Right. Man, let me go back for just a second, Jace, because you gave two great tips, which I've never heard. So one being the wind. So guys listening,
yep.
I was hoping that Jace was going to say they don't care because I just know how much I'm addicted to trying to pull a whitetail, and it's impossible. So to be able to go hunt an animal that's I don't know if I care, I think is awesome. And two, it's great to know because you can be a little more aggressive, which is super important. And like Jace said, you can commit to that stalk. And two, man, what a great idea to use your phone and double check those landmarks because when I know when I'm doing stuff like that, even if it's hanging a tree stand in a new farm in Missouri like I have last year, I will look at the ground in the daylight. I will check everything 100 times before I make that walk in the dark because everything changes. So the same thing goes with spot and stalk. Like last year when I was in Alberta, man, the minute I got on one of these bluffs, everything changed. Great tip. Use that phone. You have it. Use it.
Yeah, I mean, we were on them all the time anyway, And another thing you can do, another good tip I'll give, and I've done this before, is, if you've got time and you feel confident that the animals, especially if that animal is bedded in a place where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. And you will have certain stalks where you're like, he put himself in a compromising position. I'll pull up Google Earth. I use Onyx a lot, and I will mark the position. I'll look at the topography, obviously an aerial image of where I'm sitting. Especially if of course, you got to have cell phone service, but I'm pulling up an image of where I'm sitting. I'm the little blue dot. I can look at the topography and get pretty close to where he's at. I'll drop a pin and mark him. So as I'm going, I'm looking at, okay, man, the blue dot's getting a lot closer to him. And that will work well, especially in some terrain features. But my favorite is the photographs because so many times, they'll bed behind a big sagebrush. And you're like, you're so fast, you're so ready to go. He's behind that big sagebrush. And then you get down and you're like, there's a lot of big sagebrush. I can't see him anymore. So you really want to, if you have a photograph of through a phone, whether it's through a phone scope or whatever, of the exact sage he's behind, and you can really look at the details. And maybe that's one big sage that has sunflowers growing out of each side of it, and it makes a little V. There's details to everything that if you pay attention to on those subtle details, they'll help you greatly down the line in your stock.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think there's too many places probably, where pronghorn are, where the elevation, just a little hill or something's not going to change. And like I'm sure, Jace, you've experienced from what you just told me, several stalks where you started him almost blind like that because he might be just on the other side of a little hill or a little bluff, and you can't see it.
Exactly. Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And another thing when you're stalking, if you can, low light is obviously best. I found that these animals, they know their sense of, they know obviously that their sense of being able to see so well is they rely on their sight and speed. They feel like if I see you, I can get away from you really fast. I'm gone, and they can. But their vision gets somewhat compromised in the low light. So, those early morning stalks, which I get it, a lot of them aren't bedded then, but late evening stalks are great. But during the middle part of the day when those animals are bedded, if you can get cloud cover, or when you're starting to get bow hunting close, and you feel like that animal's comfortable and he's not, doesn't show a lot of signs that he's edgy and everything seems right, and you need another minute for a passing cloud to cover the sun, stop. Wait one more minute for that cloud to cover that sun, because that might be just enough. It might reduce some element of glare. It might allow him not to pick you up that last little bit. I'm a big believer in the shadows that clouds cast. I've seen it work too many times. It's allowed me to get away with moves I wouldn't get away with on a stalk that I get busted doing in the bright sun.
For sure. No, and man, that's another great tip, no doubt. It almost makes you want to hunt those mornings where, like you just said, it's super cloudy, maybe a little touch of fog in the air, and get right up on them.
Yep. Yeah. And another thing too is it doesn't have to be bedded, and it doesn't have to be a lone buck. Just less eyes are better, of course. If another thing that stalking wise that you can do, if a buck's moving or your animal's moving, I'll still stalk a moving animal, but I've got to be able to kind of think about where he's going to be and be there before he gets there and make that ambush, because they're a lot like elk. Once you start chasing, for anybody that's ever chased a bull up a mountain and you've never caught him, I get it. An antelope's kind of the same way. You fall in behind him and he's really on a march, you're not gonna catch him. You want to try to be where he's going to go to. So anticipate where he's heading. If there's a coulee or something that you can use and you can beat feet and get there quick, you might be able to intercept his path of travel.
Okay.
So don't be afraid to go after a buck that's on his feet either.
Yep. Pay attention. Look for vantage points to cut him off or get in front of him. That's great tips. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So, Jace, to get into a little bit of the jet setting, sort of Jace spot and stalk ninja style, I assume you're kind of eliminating some gear. So what are you basically spotting and stalking in?
I'm going really, really light. I've always got my pack, and I run a Mystery Ranch pack. My gear, my pants are extremely light. I like several of the Sitka makes. I use those a lot. They've got the inset knee pads, and if it's not real crumbly shale terrain, I'll just run those. They seem to be enough, but if not, you're gonna want to get some good knee pads, and not the hard plastic ones that don't. You want the gel, comfortable, spend a little extra money that bend with your knee. Two things. One, they're going to be quieter, they're going to be more comfortable, and you're going to be able to cover ground quicker, but you're going to want a good set of knee pads. I also recommend a good pair of leather gloves. Have those leather gloves, and that's going to help a lot. There's a lot of cactus out here. Anywhere antelope dwell, there's a lot of cactus. I go as far now as in the pockets of my pack on the waist belt, or just even in my pant pocket, I carry with me a pair of tweezers, because you're going to get cactus, and sometimes you get that cactus in a bad spot and you need it out now. In your fingernails, you break it off, you can't get it. Tweezers, they're out quick. Boom, you pluck that spine, and you're back at it. Plus, if you happen to get into a nasty bunch of it, I've done that a million times. You need to get those cactus spines out because they will cause infection. They dive in deep, and trust me, I've had antibiotics through shots that from letting those cactuses go. It's not a fun experience. It will cause a fever. It'll cause infection, and it can get pretty serious over a short amount of time. So, I do carry the tweezers. Of course, I have my optics. I got my bow. But a lightweight gear, long sleeve shirt that's lightweight, pants, of course, the knee pads, and then boots that are lightweight. I don't wear snake boots anymore. That's a personal call. I find them too cumbersome and too bulky. Right now I'm running these either my Kinetrax that are just a hiker series or my Lacrosse. They're a mountain hiker basically is what they are, and they're super light, super quiet. That's kind of my go-to. And then when I get close, a lot of times the shoes are coming off, and I'm just going socks.
Where do you store like binos or a rangefinder?
I use it's Fish Hunt Fire Gear. I have them right here attached to my vest on a bino harness, and then the rangefinder pocket is right next to it.
Perfect. That's cool.
And Badlands makes them, Alps makes them. This is just one I've used for a long time that I really just kind of gotten really comfortable with. And so I want those optics. I want those binos close to me all the time. And the rangefinder's a must because antelope on the prairie, they look monstrous. They just look huge, and they're not that big of an animal. So judging distances is very difficult.
Yeah, and plus the sounds the way you spoke this whole podcast, it sounds like they hardly sit still. So you're probably rearranging all the time, even if they're just walking 5 feet, 10 feet. Yeah.
Yep, a lot.
That's good stuff. The tweezers is a great tip because, oh my gosh, I remember hunting, a few hunts in the Texas Panhandle, and just, oh my gosh, the cactus and spur cactuses is just painful, and
it'll eat you. Yeah,
it will just make you think about how annoying that is and wanting to get it out instead of paying attention to the hunt. So that's a great tip to have it and get rid of it and pay attention to the hunt again.
Yep, absolutely.
So what do you got planned this year, Jace, for Pronghorn?
I'm doing something kind of unique this year. Start in Colorado on August 15th, and it'll be right here, right in my home turf. It's all DIY, combination of public and private. Then I'm jumping to Nebraska. I got a buddy out there, Cody Cook, who runs Heartland Pride Outfitters, and they run a killer deer operation in Kansas and Nebraska, and they're doing antelope, and he's asked me to come out and just kind of help show him some things. So I'm super excited about getting to go out there and hunt with him. It's a really cool place, and
Jace, what part of the
we're going to
state
go out
is that?
there.
Sorry to interrupt you.
It's near Scottsbluff, is where that's at, and I'm not exactly. I haven't hunted that area of the state before, so I'm excited to go hunt there. And then I'm headed on I'm doing a 3-state journey. I'll go straight from there to South Dakota, and that one's purely public, a spot that I found years ago that I've killed plenty of antelope at over the years, and it's a spot I just love going there. And so I'm stringing together a little 3-state tour on antelope
cool.
this year.
Yeah, heck yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah, that's cool. I'm excited about your Nebraska trip just because I'm a fan of Nebraska as a whole, and I'll be there in September for some whitetail and mule deer hunting, so that'll be cool.
Great state.
Yeah, it is. And I've threatened, just mentally made notes of it, because I knew I could get antelope or pronghorn tag there over the counter, so I think that will be next on my list, maybe if I can't manage it this year, but next year for sure, or if I can get out there early enough this year to experience that and make that hunt happen, which would be pretty cool.
That would be cool. That would be very cool.
Yeah, so, yeah, excited. You can't, like you said, just so many, awesome positives to take away from, this talk. And just, one positive is just freaking over-the-counter tag is so awesome.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you know, I mean, we don't have time to talk about all of them. I mean, but you know, don't limit yourself to one thing when you're hunting antelope. I want everybody to know that. Don't say, you know, don't be that guy that says, well, I'm just going to spot and stalk. You know, that's the only way I'm going to do it. I mean, you can, but if you show up to an area and the prairie grass is a 1/4 inch high and it's crunchy and it's 97 degrees, do yourself a favor and find water.
Right,
find the water,
sure.
set up a ground blind, and shoot an antelope coming to water, because that is by far, I promise, the most efficient way to kill a pronghorn is over water. It's controlled. You know, you're in a ground blind. It can be miserable, I'll promise you, but you know, don't go with that mindset of I'm only gonna do it a certain way, because you're gonna have to adjust your tactics. You know, you might go if you're going during the rut. There's nothing better than hunting an antelope with the decoy. I mean, when they come to a decoy, it is awesome.
Man, yeah. That sounds like fun. The decoy stuff.
It's a blast. Oh, gosh. Yeah. It's the best. You know, it's such a limited window, though. You know, we just see it on TV when it's like, oh, the decoy went up and he runs, and he's just charging it, but it's just like a whitetail buck. You know, you're hitting a window where his testosterone level is at a maximum, and he wants to defend his does, and he feels like you're threatening him, and he's coming hard. And when they do, I mean, I had some buddies out last year, and we harvested several bucks over a 2-day period with nothing but decoys, and it was awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. Very cool. Well, before we jump off, Jace, what's going on? Anything new at Bowhunting World, and where can you know, people find Bowhunting World and all that good stuff?
Yeah, you know, nothing major new. You know, we're just trying to continue to try to put out a good, informative magazine. Our website is www.grandviewoutdoors.com. We offer free subscriptions to Bowhunting World, so all you got to do is go on there, sign up, you get a free sub. I guess that is something new. We are doing that, so you can get a free subscription to Bowhunting World magazine. Yeah, and then just anybody that has any questions, I love to answer questions. It's never a bother. I mean, you know, drop me a line on Facebook or Instagram, and you know, I'm happy to get back to you. Especially, you know, I had a couple guys last year that were out on antelope hunts and ran into some issues, and 2 of them hit me up on Instagram, and it was just really cool. I actually talked to the one guy the other day. I didn't hear back from him, but the one guy ended up killing a nice buck with some information I gave him on what I would do based on if I was there, and it worked out for him. So, you know, just hit me up. I'm never too busy. I just, you know, I want to help. I love to help people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good to know. Jace, where can they find you on Instagram? What's your handle?
Instagram, I'm just at bowseybowhunts, and that's you know, it's BAUSEY Bowhunts, at bowseybowhunts, and Facebook, it's just Jace Bauserman. That's pretty much it. And anybody that's, you know, that is interested and, you know, basically wants a step-by-step breakdown of every possible way you can hunt antelope, you know, you just go to Amazon, type in Jace Bauserman, and you'll see my book, Bowhunting the Prince of the Plains, and you can order it up. I have it set at the absolute cheapest price that it can be purchased, that Amazon will let it be purchased for in an e-book and in a regular book. So, you know, I'm not trying to make any money with it. I just want people to have the information. So it's set at the lowest price point possible, and, you know, you can go on there and, you know, order up the book and check out the reviews and you know, let me know what you think as well.
Absolutely. And in case you weren't listening and you're being a knucklehead, check out Grandview Media and get a free subscription to my favorite magazine. Actually, it's been my favorite, Jace, since I've been in high school. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, well before you even worked there. But
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, just always enjoyed reading stories, and the special one that comes out twice a year, the Bowhunting World Extreme, where, you know, it talks about grizzly hunts on the coast and just all kinds of cool stuff. Always been one of my favorite magazines, and if you want to be a better bow hunter, man, take Jace up on it and get a free subscription.
Absolutely.
For sure. Well, Jace, man, thanks for your time today, and man, I can't wait till we do this again.
You bet, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I wish everybody luck out there, and let me know how it goes.
For sure, and hopefully after your Pronghorn tour, we'll get you back on and we'll talk about the success and how it happened.
Absolutely, man. I'd love to anytime.
All right, for sure. And guys and gals, as you know, you can find us every week, podbros.com, Outdoor Podcast Channel, iTunes. We'll see you guys next week.